Hey, welcome back here to the Central PA Pour, and this is our 4th of July episode. So, happy 4th of July, guys.
You look like George Clinton in those glasses.
Oh, yeah. What is that?
The Parliament.
The Parliament. Oh,
yes.
Yeah, a little funk going on. Yeah.
The Funkadelics.
You know, normally I have a fireworks party here, but all I got left is a couple Roman candles. So,
yeah.
I don't think my wife would appreciate if we light these off tonight. What do you think?
No.
I don't know. I was going to say stick around. Maybe we can do it in the studio.
Should I go the whole episode with these glasses on?
It's up to you.
I don't know. I'll have to keep doing this because it looks like a shutter feel. So happy 4th of July. This is our 4th of July episode. And, can't believe we're going to be halfway through summer when this episode comes out. And holy shit, how fast did this year go? Oh, my God. But we have another guest in studio, and this is, we had him scheduled earlier this year, but he had a surprise visit, and we're going to let him discuss who he is and who he's with, but we're welcoming him into the Central PA Pour, so thank you for coming.
Hey, yeah, thanks, guys, for having me. So, my name is Mike Brubaker. I am the founder and brewmaster at Moo-Duck Brewery, which is located over across the river in Lancaster County in the town of Elizabethtown. We are one of 3 breweries in that small little town, and we have a great little community brewing center happening there.
Yeah, and you've been at this for a while. So when did you first open? You've been at this for longer than a lot that have.
Yeah, we've been around a little bit. So it's funny to think, a business that's not even 10 years old is really kind of one of the no longer new kids on the block, but kind of the old kid already. Right. We don't feel like it. We feel like we're just kind of maybe only starting to hit our stride a little bit, but we've been around since 2014. So we've been doing this a while.
So you in this vicinity, there wasn't a lot of breweries open at that time that you would consider what they call a craft brew pub.
Yeah. We were one of the first. So we were I mentioned already that there's 3 in our town. We were the first in our town. And I will say, as far as Lancaster County's concerned, we were one of the, not first in Lancaster County. There's certainly long history in Lancaster County of brewing, but as far as one of the small kind of, I don't want to call it artesian, but kind of smaller little brew pubs who's brewing on a small system and kind of just busting their butt to get, some product out. I think we were one of the first to kind of pioneer that you can be really small, but still make really good beer and still make a living at doing this. Yeah. And now there's a lot of them now. And, I feel like we were one of the first to kind of almost prove that concept that, you can brew 3.5 barrels at a time and still make a living doing it and be pretty successful at doing it.
And is there an advantage to being like what they call, what's that, nano brewery, that you doing small batches instead of the big 5, 10, 15 barrels?
Yeah. So, we progressed. So when we opened in 2014, we were only on a 2-barrel. And brewing on that 2-barrel, and I was actually still working my full-time job at that time. So working on that and working a full-time job, but you're constantly just working, brewing, and the whole, cycle never stopped. But we certainly said, we've upgraded to 3.5, which we've now upgraded again into a 5. So we've done some expansion, but even at 5, we're pretty small and nimble yet, where we can keep new beers flowing and one of the advantages we have is we kept that original 2-barrel. So if we want to experiment, if we want to just do some kind of wacky one-off stuff, we can still do that. So we can keep tap lines changing almost weekly, which keeps customers really interested.
And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, I was at your facility. When you find it, when you're able to get to there, you were at a prime spot because you're like right next to is it the rail trail there or something?
Yeah, we're right next to an Amtrak station. So
right.
I want to say maybe a year or 2 before we opened Elizabethtown, totally did a full renovation on that particular stop along the line. So we felt that was a pretty good time to be kind of offering something totally different on that street, because that street has nothing other than us. There's a youth center right next to us, and there's another couple other businesses that are just, they're not businesses where you go and visit. It's just a business that's there. So I figure we really kind of brought some energy to kind of that end of town. Downtown is great. We have a really, really progressive and really up and coming downtown. area of Elizabethtown, and we're kind of on the outskirts of that a little bit, but we kind of like that we're bringing some energy and some things to do kind of in and around the train station. Because, I mean, there's traffic coming in and out of that train station all the time, and COVID shut that down a little bit, but it's starting to come back a little better. And
it's a cool spot.
So many people that come off the train are like, oh my God. Or they're there to pick somebody up at this lot, and they're like, oh, well, I can come in here and have a beer and grab.
Oh, the train ain't here for another 30 minutes. I'm going to get a beer.
Yeah. So I think the location is great. It is off the beaten path. We're certainly not going to get just somebody saying, I drove by here and saw you guys, but I feel like that's not really how people find breweries anyway.
No.
They find it through word of mouth or see you at a beer fest or wherever it might be. So that part of it didn't really bother me when we were looking at locations.
And speaking of how we found you, one of our previous guests, Dover Brewing, there's a little story behind that of how we found you, and tell us a little bit about that, because it's kind of a unique story with some equipment that has circulated within the community in this area.
Yeah, so we originally bought some used equipment from Liquid Hero Brewing, and those were our original brew tanks, and we were still using those up until about last summer. And then to go back even, I think it was 2 years before that, I had met Mark from Dover Brewing at an event, and the two of us, had similar kind of interest in brewing, and a good friend of mine and a good customer of mine said, well, you guys should, do something together. So we brewed a collaboration before I even really know who he was. And, he came and, there's some people who, you kind of click with brewing, and he's a down to earth guy. I'm a pretty down to earth guy, and we got along really well. So we've done numerous collaborations with them now. And when I was needing to upgrade and needing to sell off some old equipment, he was pretty much the first guy who I contacted and said, hey, we got some stuff that's still in great shape, and we can work out a really nice deal for you guys to help get you guys up and running. So we bought some stuff from Liquid Hero, in which we in turn then sold, and it's coming back to York County here. So
yes, that's a cool story. And I think that's what we found is every story and person that we've had in here, the stories are unique and different. Very similar, but unique and different.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us who are opening breweries who have opened breweries up in the last 10 years kind of all have a similar story. Most of us were home brewing and decided, hey, this is, something I really enjoy doing. It's something I'm pretty good at. And, I'm doing it so often that why don't I start to maybe get paid to do this, And
I did see that you've won some awards when you were home brewing.
Yeah, we won both on the homebrew side and since we've been open as an actual brewery side of things. So, yeah, we, I don't know how many it's, you enter competitions as a home brewer, you want to get, as a home brewer, you're giving your beer out to friends and family. And of course, most of the time they're like, hey, this is free beer. We're going to we're going to drink this and we're going to love it, and we're going to get more free beer. And this is going to be like a really cool setup. So you always hear that,
money.
and, and there's always a sense of pride in something you brew. So even if your home brew maybe isn't the best home brew, you think, hey, this is really good. So you enter competitions to kind of get some unbiased feedback, and I got really good feedback right off the start from the first competition I ever entered. So we entered maybe, 10, 12 competitions as home brewers, and we placed in every one that we ever entered. So that was pretty cool. So we had a suspicion we were doing pretty good product wise. And then of course there's you go from making 5 gallons to making, 100 gallons or even more. And there's certainly that challenge to scale up, but
that's it's something, but it's a risk.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. Yeah.
But here we are, 8, 9 years?
Yeah, we're 9 years in. I'd say I'll be perfectly honest. Our quality of beer has come, even now, it continues to get better. And some people have talked to me about that. Our beer is good from the start, but it's only gotten better the whole time. And people ask me, well, why is it? If you do something for this long, I hope you're not doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same product. You adjust, you learn new techniques, you talk to other brewers, and you get better and better and better at it. So, we were making good beer from the start, from the homebrew days. We made some good beer and won some awards early in our years. But I think where our product has come now 9 years later is, if I go back and taste those first, batches 1 through maybe 50, I'd be like, what the hell were we doing here? But
Do you have like parts of the making the beer that, you know, maybe I don't want to say troubles you, but you know, and then on just the opposite, you know, what's your favorite parts of?
Yeah. So one of the things I take pride in as far as brewing is concerned is I don't kind of pigeonhole into brewing one style or being good at brewing just one style. You know, we have literally everything from a light lager to stouts to, you know, hazy IPA to West Coast IPA to, I'm really a big fan of Belgian style beers. So we do some really nice Belgian style beers as well. So we run the gauntlet of all different styles and all different things. I will say there's been some beers throughout our history that were kind of core year-round beers that I started to get frustrated with at times, that we've dropped out of being core beers, and then we just bring them back once a year now. But there was one of our first beers, and I loved it as a home brewer, and it was a light, refreshing beer made with honey and fresh basil, which is kind of wacky. You don't think of using something like basil in beer. And when I homebrewed it was fantastic, and for some reason I just couldn't get it right when we first opened, and I think we had it on as a year-round beer for maybe the first year and a half, and I just said, this is enough. It's not coming out how I want it ever. We've been adjusting it and trying different things with it, and it's just not right now. And I gave it like a 2-year hiatus, and then I went back to it, and now it's, for whatever reason, I don't know what I'm doing different. There's nothing perceivably different that I'm doing, but for some reason now, after giving it that little bit of rest, it's back to being one of our favorites. We just had it out, and we did only a 2-barrel batch of it, and I think it sold in like a week and a half. I was like, well, I guess maybe it's time to slam that one up again and see what that's done. And, you know,
and I mean, I can't say that I've ever heard of a honey basil one. That's in a unique.
Yeah, so we always try to have something unique on. I'd say I lean way more towards traditional styles of beer than I do kind of, you know, wacky styles of beer, but we always try to have one kind of like interesting, unique beer on tap at all times. So,
and how do you come up with it? Just like, hey, is this a collaboration? Does your staff, does your wife? I mean, who else helps you with this?
It's mostly me. There's certainly, you know, one of the things, and I'm sure most breweries have this, is we have a really loyal, you know, local customer. You know, we'll find people, you know, touring around the breweries who come and find us from far away as well. But we have a really good core group of customers, and some of them are at the point now where they'll throw ideas off me, and most of the times I tell them it's not a great idea, but some of the times they stick and we'll brew it, and, you know, they get kind of some acclaim in the tap room saying, hey, that was my idea. But most of the time it's just, I don't know, inspiration can literally come from anywhere. Sometimes you'll be eating something and you'll say, well, that's a really unique combination of flavors, because that's really what brewing is. You're adding combinations of flavors together. So, you know, I didn't bring it today. I should have maybe, but we have a porter on that has Neapolitan flavor. So it's got strawberry, vanilla, and chocolate.
So
that's ice cream inspired. You know, you're eating ice cream. You say, hey, I can make this into beer.
I saw that on the tap list. I was like, Neapolitan. So I was going to ask you, what is the Neapolitan? But you just answered that.
Yeah. So we have a porter that's pretty much on tap from Labor Day weekend till right about now. The Neapolitan will be our last one. And we just do it on our 2-barrel system, and just, first one is a smoked porter, because we do a smoked special Labor Day weekend. So it kind of fits in with that theme. And then we just do different fruits, different spices, different flavors in the porter for, you know, half the year, basically.
I think when I was up there, I think I had one of those porters, and it's fucking delicious.
Yeah.
It's a very good porter.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't have the Neapolitan one.
Yeah, not yet. So
guess what? We're going to have to make a road trip and try that. So.
But yeah, we'll do cherries in it. We've done vanilla, coffee, a lot of the typical stuff you think in kind of dark beers. And then, you know, Neapolitan, I think it's fairly unique. I've seen some other people do it, but you don't see that too terribly often.
No, and I saw some of the beer names that you have. So some unique ones. Knowledge by, what, I wrote them down here, I think. What is it? Living increases knowledge.
Yeah.
Gaining on last place, and joy is in the consumption.
Yeah.
So that's some unique names. Where do you come up with those names?
Yeah. So I don't know. If you talk to brewers, they probably almost all tell you the same thing. Naming beers is one of the most challenging and kind of one of the most annoying things about the business. You know, number one, there's, I don't know, are we at 10,000 breweries now in the country? You know, there's so many breweries, so it's hard to find a name that you know, a lot of times you'll say, oh, I have this great beer name. You look on like Untapped or something, you'll be like, oh, well, there's like already 4 breweries that have that name. So
that's
like,
what we just
maybe that's not the, you know, maybe that's not the best name, you know? So it's like, I don't know. But join the consumption. That's a hazy pale ale that we brew a couple times a year, and it's pretty popular beer for us. And that was just kind of actually almost taking a jab at stuff like Untapped, where it's like, you don't need to check a beer in to enjoy it. You don't need to share it with all your friends and say, hey, look what I found. Or, people who do these beer shares, or, they mail order beers and you're getting beers from all over the country. That's not what drinking beer is about to me. It's more about, finding a beer you like and drinking it, and you don't have to tell everybody about what you just did.
Yeah.
So that was kind of where joy in the consumption came from. It's just like, you know what? The name says it. The joy in beer is consuming it. It's not finding it or getting it or telling everybody else you have it.
Well, speaking of consuming and beers, we got one in front of us. And this was one of the other unique names there's two of them that have this kind of similar name.
Yeah, we brought the other one with too. We thought that'd be kind of a good theme to.
Yeah.
To
So what's going to be our first beer here, Mike?
So the first beer is called A Beer for Dad. We're a small little kind of family run pub and brewery. So it's weird because a lot of bartenders and stuff are usually on the younger side. Ours are, for whatever reason, at our age, and I'm in my mid 40s, they're even older than us. But for whatever reason, it started a couple years ago. All of our staff called me Dad and my wife Mom. She kind of runs the more front of the house and taproom side of things. So they call us Mom and Dad. And so we have a beer for Dad, and we also have a beer for Mom, which both fits kind of where each of us kind of lean in our drinking styles. So beer for Dad's just a nice, easy drinking, crisp lager. So it's kind of on the
Vienna. If you see it,
it's kind of on the Vienna style, I guess, if you want to throw it into a style category, but just nice, crisp, easy drinking, 5%, drink all day. You can see on the can art, there's a guy in a boat. So the guy somewhat sort of kind of looks like me a little bit.
It's the cartoon Mike.
Yes, it's the cartoon version of me. So that beer's for me and all the other dads who just kind of like easy drinking beers that you can drink all day. Maybe drink it out while you're out fishing or whatever you're doing. But another cool thing about this beer is it's actually brewed with Pennsylvania grown malt. Okay. So it's got a real nice local connection as well.
All right. Cheers. A beer for Dad. All dads, not just Mike.
Any dad. All dads.
That's good.
Very good.
Yeah, this is
I could see drinking this all day, like you said.
Yeah.
This is
So this is it's on our year-round beers. So this beer is always on tap. I think it was about a year ago we made the decision. So we've always had a big kind of support local echoes behind our brand, and we were using some local stuff before COVID, and then when COVID happened, budgets get a little tighter and everything, and we kind of shied away from it. And since things have gotten up and running and full swing again, we said let's re-explore using local malt. And this beer was always really good. This beer has won a bunch of awards, actually, at some various competitions. But I think since we went local, I think it's gotten even better, actually.
Yeah, it's and if you can see, I did hold it up earlier. And one thing that we're really starting to, we're learning as we're doing this, because we're amateurs. We enjoy the product. Is since we recorded with Mad Chef, he was saying about the clarity of the beer. Mm-hmm. And every beer that we've had on ever since, we've been looking at it. And if you could see, this is a crystal clear. It's got a little orangish hue to it, which is that lager.
Yep.
It is a very good, I think it's a well-balanced, malty backbone to it. Sessionable, very sessionable beer. Mm-hmm. So Yuengling and Sam Adams Boston were always my go-tos.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And I'll still drink them from time to time. Mm-hmm. However, Yuengling tastes like a light beer to me now. You compare a Yuengling to something like this, it's a light beer.
Yeah, this is the one when people come into the tap room and they say they drink Yuengling. This is usually where we'll try to steer them. But we do also warn them, it's like, it's in the same realm as Yuengling, but it's going to have way more flavor than what a Yuengling does.
That's why I can't go back to mass
produce. This one is what I would call an all malt lager. So there's no corn, there's no rice, there's no any of those adjuncts that kind of lighten the flavor of the beer.
Sure.
So this is all malt.
Is this one of your original recipes from homebrew days?
No.
Okay.
No. This one came out probably about, I don't know, I want to say like 3 years ago we first released this. And part of that was equipment. Since we've upgraded, we have a lot better equipment for controlling temperature than what we did when we first opened. Originally, to do a lager, which has to ferment cold, we would wait till it's cold in the brewery and we'd make one. Where now we have we have the temperature control system and everything that we can make year-round lagers now.
How long does that one take to lager out?
So that one's, and most of our lagers are actually a little bit on the quicker side in the lager realm of things. So that's a 5-week turnaround from brew to keg or can or whatever we're doing with that particular batch. But
very good.
Yeah,
that's very good.
Now you mentioned something about your system. And I read it. It's a hand built.
Yeah, so we probably have to update some stuff. That hand built system is now living here in Dover. The hand built system was
that's the one that went to Dover Brewing.
Was purchased by Dover Brewing. So yeah, our original brew house though, we pretty much found some stainless tanks that we refabricated to work as brewing tanks. And I'll be honest, with the amount of capital that we had, we should have probably never opened a brewery. And then even today, I'm kind of the go-to guy, which is one of the reasons why I got to know Mark so well. I'm kind of, I think, known as the go-to guy if like you're kind of wanting to open a brewery on a budget. I have a lot of ideas that can get people open. So we opened with less than
experience.
Yes. So we opened with less than $50,000 capital, which is pretty unheard of in the brewing realm because brewing equipment is not cheap.
No, and here you are. This is almost 9 years later, so you're doing something right.
Yeah, we've done it right. And one of the things we're proud of, so we opened on a really small budget. We've luckily, between myself and my father and one of our business partners, who's, you might have seen some of his beers, called Crazy Dave.
Yeah, I saw that label. He's got his finger in his nose.
Yeah.
Is there there's a story behind
There's
that?
no direct story. That's just Dave. Dave is just a unique character on his own. But between the three of us, we have enough skills that we were able to do all the build out ourselves, refabricate equipment ourselves, weld fittings and stuff on ourselves. So we were able to open on that kind of shoestring budget. And we're almost 9 years in now, and we've never taken any debt as a company, and we're still debt free. And we'll probably continue to be debt free based on the way our finances are looking now. So
that's something to be proud of.
I'd say that's when you operate any business, your idea, and when you figure the first couple of years you're going to be in the red, but if you can maintain above the black, it's all positive.
And like I briefly mentioned it earlier, so we actually started with no payroll either. So I was just working my full-time job. My wife was working her full-time job. We would bartend. Crazy Dave would come and help bartend. So we operated maybe for our first 6 months without any payroll even. So that helped us.
Wow. Crazy Dave worked for beer.
Crazy Dave.
He was working for beer. Well, he was working for beer and his percent of the company.
No, I'm not working for beer.
Well, dude, you're retired. You're not fucking working.
Yeah, well, that's true. But I'm not working for beer. Yeah. My wife actually does a little bit of bird watching. She has all these bird feeders.
Oh, nice.
all over the place. Anyway, I'm not complaining, but I understand that you're a bird watcher also.
Yeah. So I guess what I would say my trained profession was as a environmental educator / naturalist. So that's what my college degree is. That's perhaps not really doing much for me anymore, but that's okay.
Was that your full-time job prior?
Yeah. Well, so there was so after college, I worked at various nature-oriented places where I was a naturalist, and then I kind of settled full-time in the Poconos and became director of a place called the Pocono Environmental Education Center, which we've actually done some beers kind of in there, raising money for some of their programs and things that they're doing. But that was kind of what I was doing for a long time. So I'm really into being outside, really into bird watching is one of my big passions. Unfortunately, sometimes when you own your own business, some of your passions kind of take a back seat a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm not as enthusiastic about birds as probably I once was, but I still very much enjoy the bird feeders in the backyard. I still very much, this time of the year when it's actually probably the best time of the year as far as like migration is happening right now. And so you're getting things that live down in the tropics during the winter and maybe they breed up in Canada, but you have this really short window where you can kind of find them this time of the year. So that's certainly one of my passions. And actually the kind of whole Moo-Duck theme name came from my time spent up at the Pocono Environmental Education Center. We were entering a bird watching event called the World Series of Birding, which every time I say that, I must I catch myself saying, I was like, that must sound absolutely ridiculous to most people.
I was going to say, I never heard that. I guess there's a World Series of everything.
For everything, right? So in reality, what this is a event put on by the New Jersey Audubon Society and allows other nature type places to sign up and raise money for their facility. So we literally treated it as like a birdathon. So if you say, Mike, I'll give you 10 cents for every species of bird you can find that day. And we end up raising, $5,000-$6,000, I think, by doing it. So
$5,000-$6,000.
And when you're a director of a nonprofit, if you can find a way to make $5,000, that's a pretty cool thing. So we entered this event called the World Series of Birding, and basically it's a 24-hour marathon to find as many species as you can. And the playing field is the whole state of New Jersey. The only quote unquote rule is you have to turn in your checklist of birds seen in Cape May at midnight. So it's midnight to midnight. Go wherever you want.
Wow.
And total honor system, if you showed up with something ridiculous on your checklist, they would question you. But other than that, if you were the only time we were ever questioned is we were one year the only team that found a bird. So they asked us where we'd seen that, and they asked each team member to be able to describe it and that. But so most team names for this event are kind of boring, generic team names. Somebody's the Eagles or somebody's the Cardinals or,
Sure.
pretty generic bird names. And we were at that point, low 20-year-old kind of punk kids,
beer drinking,
kind of the anti of what everybody probably thought of what bird watchers should look like at that point. And, we said, we want to come up with something just kind of a little weird, a little crazy, and really just make people think like, I'll be honest, who the fuck are these guys? Who the fuck are these guys? And what are they all about? So I will say, if you know anybody from Russia, you might get a little more in-depth view on what that was. I, at the time, had a intern from Russia who was studying with me, and every time we would go out bird watching, or we'd be out hiking or doing something and, doing silly, stupid things like young kids do, he would always say, hey, you guys are a bunch of Moo-Ducks. So that kind of just stuck with us. And
is that one of the birds you turned into the society? Hey, we saw a fucking Moo-Duck.
You saw a Moo-Duck. That was the bird that they questioned, huh? Okay.
Now, I will say the organizer of the event, which is a fairly famous bird watcher, was always super intrigued and trying to figure out what this whole name was about. And we never, he pushed us a couple years in a row, and we just never would tell him.
I think it's fucking
so it does have some Russian meaning. I will leave it at that for now. It's a Russian slang word, spelled a little different than what the Mooduck is, but
it doesn't mean move fuck, does it?
The closest, and this is funny because I said my latest stint in between is actually my brother owns an auto body shop, so when I moved from the Poconos back down to Lancaster County, I actually did I don't know, way too long because I'm not even a car guy, but I did about a 6 or 7 year stint at the auto body shop. And it was a wholesale shop over in Mannheim. And one of our good dealers that we did a lot of work with was a Russian guy. So, I, out of curiosity, I knew what it meant, but I wanted to see what he said. So I said, hey, I have this Russian friend of mine. He's always calling me a Moo-Duck. And his face just got bright red.
You're going to have to tell us off air what it is.
So I'll give you his description of it. He pretty much said it's somebody who's all balls and no brain.
That's every fucking guy out there, right?
So it was interesting to hear his translation compared to what my Russian friend had always said, kind of what it meant.
That's funny.
But that's the story of the name Moo-Duck, and that's kind of a celebration of that, and a thank you to him for giving us the silly name that we ended up with. Our anniversary beer every year is a Russian Imperial Stout, so there's a connection to the whole meaning as well.
I think it's freaking awesome. It's unique. Again, the story is unique.
Yeah.
The meaning and where it came from is just it's awesome. It's a great story, and this is the stuff that's what we find is so interesting about every one of you guys.
So his name is Slava. So for the anniversary beer, we do that Russian Imperial Stout called King Slava, and that's a big beer that we then age in bourbon barrels every year. So it's one of our favorites. That comes out first Saturday in November every year, and we've actually won some awards with that. took second place at the big farm show beer competition with that beer.
I think I remember seeing that. Yes, I did remember seeing that.
So that one, I mean,
and we got to put that on our fucking calendar, man. We got to get up there when the farm show is going on and go out to and maybe we see if we can get a tent up there because these guys are all up
you
there.
probably could. Yeah.
Let's do some interviews. I mean, Mike, that story was. Now, I am not a bird guy.
Yeah.
Truthfully, I hate fucking birds.
Oh yeah.
So the only bird watching I want to do is at the end of a freaking gun. So don't take offense to
that's
that.
okay. Yep.
So the funny thing is I always have my camper out here. Now this past year I took it to the shop and there's always birds that nest in the hitch. It's a fifth wheel. And all right, so I left it at the shop all winter long and I just brought it home last week.
Yeah.
And Kevin says, those birds didn't even wait a day to get up in that damn hitch.
You brought it back just in time for him.
It's son of a bitches.
So I understand. So you hate birds.
I fucking hate birds.
So, so every time I gave you one, it's unappreciated.
Nope.
Tell us about your charity brews.
Yeah. So again, if we're going back to when we first started and what I just said about the Beer for Dad, we try to be community focused as much as we can. And that's certainly the essence of having a small tap room in a small town is, you're a community gathering place. And we don't ever pretend to be anything else. You're not going to go to 2 states away and see our beer on draft or on tap or in cans anywhere. That's not who we want to be. You're not even going to go probably to another restaurant locally in town and see our beer on tap. It's not who we are. It's not who we want to be. But we certainly are a community gathering place. And we thought to ourselves, owning a business and having a place where people come and drink beer, yeah, that's great. But we thought there's probably an opportunity to do a little bit more than be just that. So right from the start, we've always had a charity giving program. We have always a beer on tap where $1 for every draft of that particular beer goes to the charity of that quarter. The other thing we do is at one point during the quarter when that charity is kind of the chosen one, we have them come and spend a night in the tap room where they sit up and they can hand out information and tell everybody about what they do and why they're important for the community as well. And that's a chance for them to get the word out about them. So not only do we do the $1 per draft when they're there for the quarter, we'll do usually we do 10 or 15% of all sales that day that they're kind of the one to
awesome.
get back. So that's a day where people can come in, eat, drink, get swag, take merchandise home, and it's all for a good cause. So
and you mentioned eat. I noticed on the Facebook there are some pizzas and some other food products. Whose idea is that? Who's the chef?
Yeah, so we don't have a chef. I'd like to say I do the brewing and my wife does everything else. But it's really a pretty 50-50 partnership in most things. She is the food safe, manager in the front of the house for sure. But if you don't see me in the brewery, there's a good chance I'm probably in the kitchen cooking. That's kind of where I fill in the tap room. If we're busy and somebody's backed up, I'll jump in the kitchen and help sling some pizzas. I actually very much enjoy cooking pizzas. I don't know why, but I find it almost therapeutic. Which is weird.
Sometimes it's better than brewing beer, right?
But a lot of times it's a lot more like relaxed. But I will say, if you look back to our original business plan, there was very little anything about food in there. At the time, the law was that if you had people drinking on site, you had to have food.
Yeah. We heard that story.
That has now changed.
Okay.
I don't know, probably for the better, but so we had to have food when we started, which pretty much consisted of chili and hot dogs. And a couple other snack things.
Yeah.
And
the COVID rules were ridiculous.
Well, the COVID rules were a whole nother,
Liquid Hero.
I wasn't going to mention the name, but I was going to tell the story.
They had a prop dog that they would pass around because if they ordered just the beer, they would put the prop dog in front of them.
Yeah.
They got food in front of them.
We sold more $1 hot dogs during COVID than I ever cared to ever
Bags
see
of
again.
chips, snacks.
Some people ate the $1 hot dog when you put it in front of them. Some people were like, I don't want the $1 hot dog, but I was like, well, it has to be in front of you. What you do with it, that's up to you.
I fucking ate it. I don't care.
Yeah. I think
I ate their goddamn prop dog one time too.
Remember cereal?
Oh yeah. Brooks.
Brooks.
Oh, the little box of cereal. Yeah, I remember seeing those too. But One of the things we did realize pretty quickly, though, is that, I mean, as cool as it is to just have tap rooms, a lot of people were coming in expecting to eat.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that goes back to like the Iron Hills of the world, or kind of people's vision of breweries are restaurants. So we didn't have that vision at all to start. But throughout the years, we continued to evolve and add to the point now where I wouldn't still call us a restaurant per se, but I think we have some really nice food options. And I will say that's probably the one good thing that came out of COVID is it forced us to be able to make it. We had to have people take to-go food.
Right.
And in order for people to get to-go food, we had to step up our game in what we were offering. So that's where the fun different pizzas came in and some of those things that we started doing.
And I'll be honest, when I'm looking for breweries, and basically you're calling it a brew pub because you're gonna have beverage, you're gonna have non-alcoholic stuff sometimes, and maybe some non-beer stuff. Right. And you're going to have some food. Yep. So, like I mentioned off screen, my wife is not a major drinker. And for me to get her to go somewhere, they're going to have a different product or food. So she has something to do while I'm sitting there enjoying the beer. Yeah. And I will go to a tap room, but I'm not going to spend a ton of time there. Right. I'm going to try their beer and I'm going to move on. Yeah. So I kudos to you. And the one thing that I noticed when I did come to your brewery, you are I know your little sheet that you sent back, you're kind of an introvert, but what I noticed is you're not an introvert. You are making your way throughout and talking to pretty much everybody. Yeah. And the other thing I found very unique, no televisions. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of we'll hit the no televisions first and then we'll go back to my introvertness, but we knew right from the start that we didn't want televisions. And it goes back to that whole still concept of community gathering place. I'll find myself 100% guilty of doing this. If I'm at a place and they have a television, my face is sitting up in the air, just looking at that television. And maybe you're talking about somebody if there's a game on of some kind or something like that. But otherwise, you're mindlessly just looking at something instead of when you could be, having a good time with your friends and conversing and I noticed that a lot with this device here. Yeah, it's the same as that device. My wife and I went out to eat one night, and there was a whole family. It was a husband, wife, and like 4 kids. And the husband's just sitting there with his arms crossed, but all of them were like this. There's no conversation. There's no conversation with that either. So I love that. I would say idea. Maybe for about the first 6 months, you're getting to the point where you're getting sick of the where's the TV? And even some of your regular customers, like, I'm in here all the time. Where's your TV? Where's your TV? But we're gotten to the point now where we don't even get that question. In fact, we get what you guys just said. We get that. Thank God you guys don't have TVs. Yeah. It's really nice to go somewhere where you don't have to sit there and look at a screen. If you go on Moo-Duck.brewery.com, first thing says no TVs, just conversation. I love it. Our tagline is no TV's conversation welcome. That's the old pub style from England. It's a pub. It's a gathering place. It's a community to talk and engage and have fun. And I love that freaking idea. So another one of the questions we get often is, when are you expanding or when are you opening a second location? Because your brewery license allows you to have many locations under your one license. And what we think is important is kind of what you had just said. I'm naturally introverted. I will sit in the corner of the pub most of the time, and then make my way out and talk to some people from time to time. But we feel it's super important that if you go to Moo-Duck, probably about 85-90% of the time, either myself or my wife will be there. And a lot of times both of us. So there's an owner presence that I don't think you get everywhere that we feel is really important. Somebody should be able to come in and not that our bartenders don't know about the beers, because we train them really well to know about our beers. But if somebody's really interested in knowing about beer, I'm always there, almost always, to be able to. Your introvert now becomes an extrovert. Right. So that's one of the reasons we have explored some second locations. We've been asked from people, say, hey, we have this great location. We really want you guys to be in that location. And the one thing that continues to hold us back is, how do we maintain one of the things that makes us who we are by having the presence of us there. And we feel that's a pretty important part of it. Yeah, I think so. And, I'm not going to say yay or nay, but stick by what you and your wife want to do as your business model. If the expansion's not in it, don't pursue it.
Yeah.
You got a great thing going. And speaking of beer, we got another one sitting in front of us.
Right.
Yeah.
So we already had,
We had Dad.
a beer for Dad, and you mentioned you had another one.
Yeah. So this is a beer for Mom. So now this is for my wife, Kristen, and she is on a kick right now. And I think it's probably going to stay because it's been around a long time. That she only drinks double IPAs.
Double IPA.
So this is a West Coast leaning IPA.
This is going to be hoppy, piney.
I call it
citrusy.
West Coast leaning because it's kind of a new age West Coast. So it's clear. It's a little amberish in color.
It is. It's
but
got a good
it's
color.
got a nice kind of tropical hop punch to it. So this has got Mosaic and Citra hops in it, which are typically hops you see in the more hazy style beers. So it's not going to have as much of the kind of piney side of things. It certainly does have a little bit of that. It's certainly darker in color, but it's not the West Coast IPA from the 90s that was like super bitter, super
Oh
piney.
yeah,
It's
they wanted
more
to
of-
make your ass pucker.
Right. It's more of a little kind of new aged one. The IBUs aren't crazy on it. It's 8.5%, maybe about 75, 80 IBUs. So it's not crazy, but for my wife, this is a session beer. Yeah.
session beers.
Pretty
So-
scary.
It'll be good.
Cheers.
Cheers.
This is a beer for Mom. And as we're recording this here, Mother's Day wasn't that far ago.
No,
So
not that long ago.
did you do anything special with this beer for Mother's Day, or?
I mean, we had canned specials to go for the most part. And that was it. The beer for Dad, I think fits Dad's perfect. Like most dads, like easy drink. Beer for Mom is it's kind of off the scale as far as probably what most moms will typically want to drink. But
Most moms won't drink. But you know what? You're saying leaning as a West Coast.
yeah,
Typically when we started this venture, IPAs were not in our realm.
yeah,
For some, it's still not in their realm.
Yeah.
Still not in their own.
yeah.
However,
It's not bad though.
No.
this is not overly hoppy like you'd mentioned.
Right.
And I don't get that pine bitterness.
No,
that
that's
you would
why I
in a
said.
West
I mean,
Coast.
there's certainly some bitterness there, and I say it leans West Coast only because it's certainly you got a hazy triple on the table here.
Yep, I do.
Compared to that, if we called this,
There's a
there's
difference
a
in
huge
color.
difference in the look and the color of it. So we call it West Coast only in the fact that it's clear and it's a little darker.
And
But it certainly carries some of the kind of more tropical kind of
It is. It's-
flavors
I could,
to it.
I could drink this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Maybe one, but I could drink it.
yeah, that's how I am. One every once in a while is good enough for me. But
Yeah, that's my speed on the IPAs. I could drink one
yep,
about this size.
yep.
I always say it tastes like a burnt tire, but this does. This
This isn't bad.
No, this is good. I like this.
This isn't bad. It's not the one of the earlier ones when I said that I'm going to have a tough time choking this little glass down. I'm not saying that. This is not bad, but it is not a beer for me because that is not my cup of tea.
This is actually pretty good. So,
I will say it is unfortunate.
did your wife have any input into what you were brewing?
Yeah, absolutely. As far this beer, 100% yes. So this beer used to be, like almost the same color as. Well, nothing we've had here tonight, unfortunately, but it used to be really much lighter in color. So same kind of flavor profile, but just it would be yellow instead of the kind of
I kind of
orangey,
like the
kinda amber
more.
color.
I like that light
Yeah,
amber.
yeah. And she said, you know what, I like it just to be a little bit more malty than what it originally was. So we darkened it a little bit, and she likes it more. I think it's a better beer now too. I think it's a little more balanced with
It
the more
is.
malt behind it.
Yes,
So.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very balanced. I had a red IPA the other just last night. I think from Starview when I stopped on my way home, and that was a nice reddish color. It a little bit not as hoppy, but
Right.
a little bit more balanced
Yeah.
malt forward.
Yeah.
But as a West Coast, that is a very good beer, Mike. So kudos to your wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
she's got
How does your wife? What is your wife? Her opinion on the beer? Because this is for moms.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, she'll have it on tap at home all the time. I always have 6 stools ready to go for her. And every once in a while, she'll say, I kicked the 6-0. I need another one. I was like, you literally just took that home like a couple weeks ago. Like, how'd you kick that 6-0 already? I was like, can I go just get you, like, one of her favorites historically was Two Hearted Ale. I was like, can I go get you a Two Hearted keg? She says, no, I want Mom. She's like, doesn't that make you feel good? I want that instead of that. I was like, well, I guess that does.
Speaking of, I guess we just kicked our cobblestone road, our English. I'm gonna have Nate. We'll have to fucking buy a 6-0 from you. I should have called you earlier. Hey, Mike, bring me a 6-0 down, man.
Yeah.
I put it on my kegerator because I'm brewing a cream ale this for Memorial Day.
Nice. Yeah.
But right now, there's nothing on the kegerator. We kicked both the Arango Brawless Irish Red and the Cobblestone.
Very nice.
That was good.
I was hoping to have something here for you could try and give us some feedback,
cool.
but Dave kicked it.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. So she likes it.
Leave it up
She's
to
a fan,
Dave.
So
So hobbies and interests. I mean, obviously the beer making.
yeah, well, owning your own business and especially a brewery. I mean, especially where I just said we'd like to be there most of the time. So
Yeah,
hobbies have kind of taken a little bit of a backseat, unfortunately.
the birds. Yeah.
Birds especially has. Like I said, I still bird a little bit, but not as much as I really would want to. I still enjoy. We have a couple of bird watching enthusiasts that come into the tap room, and I still like to sit down with them guys, and they'll show me what they've been seeing, and we'll talk and chat some birds. So I do still like that side.
Have you asked them if they ever saw a Moo-Duck?
They've never seen a Moo-Duck. I know it's still eluding them out there. But I will say I spent most of my time before I came out here this morning fishing. So fishing is my other big hobby, and that's one I refuse to kind of not give up. Not that I gave up bird watching, but fishing is one of those things where, I'm an outdoors guy. I can get outside, and actually when I'm fishing, I can still bird watch when I'm out there too. So it kind of fits both a little bit. But fishing, and especially trout fishing, is kind of.
And that, as we're recording this, trout season was just either ending or is it still in?
I killed him this morning.
You killed him this morning?
Yeah.
What'd you catch?
We hammered him. I caught. We stopped counting. I caught between 20 and 30 trout this morning.
20? And
Wow.
where are you fishing with that for that?
We were
many
up.
trout?
Ironically, it was.
Not the Yellow Breeches, is it?
No, so I was up my way. Actually, up past me. Ironically, Snitz Creek, which is there's another brewery named after.
There's another
Ironically,
brewery.
I was fishing in Snitz Creek this morning.
Not Shit Creek.
Not Shit Creek. Which is up like Lebanon way.
Yeah, we want to get them on as well.
So I was fishing Snitz Creek with two buddies of mine. We all called a bunch. So the other guy called about the same as I did.
Browns, rainbows?
Yes, and in fact, today I caught my first ever golden rainbow.
Golden rainbow.
Yeah, so the big orange guys.
I mean, I've heard of them, but I don't think I've ever saw one.
Yeah, so it's a big rainbow trout that's yellow.
Wow. So what's the biggest fish you ever caught?
I actually caught my personal best.
It was this big.
Right, it had to be this big, right? Yeah, this big. Trout, I caught it actually this year. It was about a 22-inch rainbow. So
22-inch
Yeah.
rainbow.
Wow.
That's a big trout.
that's a big trout.
Yeah.
Yeah. it's
Now,
a big trout.
I used to fish,
Yeah.
and trout was always stocked, and it was
Yeah.
great if you could catch a wild one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're around. I mean,
But
we
they're
don't live.
usually small. I mean, what you
Yeah.
normally catch is just legal for
Right.
for keeping.
Yeah. Yeah, the natives in this area, unfortunately, most of our water gets a little too warm. So trout are a cold water species.
Right.
So the water has to remain pretty cold. There are places that you can. Yellow Breeches is one that definitely has wild trout. But most wild trout, I think you're going north to do. Like my family has a cabin up in Clinton County, and there's some streams up there that have real nice populations of wild trout. But generally, they're smaller.
I'm going to recommend it if you take your trout rod. Now, are you fly or are you
I'm spin.
spin? Okay.
Yeah.
Go up by Cold Springs. And as you're walking the
Right on the Yellow Breeches?
yeah,
there?
as you're walking the
I've been
breeches fishing, you
Yep.
can walk up and get
Have a
some beer
beer.
from
Yep.
Cold Springs.
Yep.
So
Yep.
we met those guys at the Big Bottom Tap Takeover.
Nice.
So we like to try and get them on too. But I'm just giving a shout out. That's all. So
I've been there. It's a cool place.
These fucking glasses, it's like a strobe effect, man. It's like opening and closing a shutter. So I gotta take them off. I'm getting a headache. Here, Dave, you put them on.
No, thank you.
But yeah, I'll try to keep up with the fishing as much as I can here in the next about a month, where the fishing will still be pretty good around here before it gets too warm. But
When I was fishing, I was a bass fisherman. I'd like to go to Pincho, throw the
yeah,
stuff in.
no, I definitely
and
like that too.
go around to the edges and hit the lily
Yeah.
pads and
Yeah.
and the heavy stuff.
I definitely like that, but unfortunately, that's kind of gone the way of bird watching for me. It's like I do it a couple times a year, and I really enjoy it. But there's something about trout fishing. I don't know if it's the stream or just being outside in a certain spot. That
I think it's the stream. It's just it's the whole encompass thing. Like me, when I'm not a big avid hunter, I'd love to be in the woods. I'd love to walk in the woods. And every year I'd go deer hunting. I'm just taking my gun for a walk.
This is actually exactly the phrase I use. Yeah. So my family has a cabin, and I do go deer hunting, and on a rare occasion I'll get a deer. But I said, I tell the guys every year, I don't even care if I see a deer. I don't care if I get a deer. I said, I just like sitting outside in my tree stand, maybe getting down and going for a little walk and being in the woods. And that's
not connected to this.
Not connected to that.
That's right.
And then the other thing that's, unfortunately, I'm not going to start this kind of political debate here about the game commission, but the moving of the first day of deer to the Saturday kind of ruined our personal tradition of going to camp. Because to me, I like to go to camp to hang out.
Exactly.
And, we'll fire up our smoker and throw a brisket on there and have an awesome meal.
What camp did you go to?
Yeah, I know, right?
That shit.
So unfortunately,
a bologna sandwich.
The Saturday we'll go out, but I don't know.
I haven't
it's not
hunted,
the same as
I haven't hunted or fished in years. I mean, decades, I might as well say. But I definitely miss that connection and being out there and like you said, that it was always like, okay, that Friday night we would drive up to the cabin. Saturday you walk the woods.
You walk the woods, and
Sunday maybe walk again a little bit and conglomerate. And Monday morning, 4:30, you're out in the woods.
Yep, then you're out.
I got an idea. We get Dave to get us a pontoon boat. We could do our studio right on the pontoon.
What would I do with it? I mean, where would I put it?
We've got 3 driveways right here.
We put a pontoon boat out on the. We could go up to the lake.
We go up to the lake.
We can always go up to the lake.
As long as that was one thing. Man, we used to go to Pinchot, and for opening week of bass, we'd be up there. My dad would take the camper up when we were younger. We weren't old enough yet. We were just graduating, and we camp at Pinchot for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Go out bass fishing in the day and catfish at night.
Perfect.
And drink beer at night. And we get caught. And kicked out.
That's right. State parks, you're not allowed to have beer, right?
Yeah. No.
That whole,
It was funny. We got kicked out for our last can of beer.
Oh, well, at least you got all in you.
Wow.
And the dumbass park ranger had to go make a phone call. And this is before you had cell phones and stuff. I got to go call my supervisor. Well, that was a dumb move because we got rid of all the rest of the evidence.
Yeah.
But we still got kicked out and had to make go home that night.
He might not have been making a dumb move. He might have been making a gracious move on your part.
He might have been, but it wasn't gracious on my dad's side when I had to tell him, hey, we got kicked out. You got to go pick the camper up. Right. We're done. But I do miss those days in the woods. I do miss the days fishing. I just never got... I got too busy.
Yeah, I know. Trust me.
It sucks. Do you like 100%. Any other sports? Do you watch anything?
Football. Yeah, I'm a football guy.
Oh, geez. That's these guys right here.
Football guy.
Yeah.
Are you a Steelers fan?
No.
Okay.
I'm from the other end of the state.
All right. I'm going to step back on this conversation because we got Steelers and Eagles. So I'm going to step back and let you guys have at it.
I mean, Eagles fan, and then I'm a Penn State graduate. So
Penn State. That's the only football I will watch.
Yeah, you see, you're from the other side. That's not too bad because in this area we found out that this is primarily Philadelphia or
Penn State.
Baltimore.
Baltimore, I would see too. Yeah.
Why are you swearing at me?
Because you went to fucking pit.
Why are you swearing at me? Yeah, I'm a Steeler fan, and I went to the University of Pittsburgh, so I was from that end of the state.
Yeah,
and then, but when we moved down here, we found out that you didn't get any of that news. You didn't, no one follows Pitt down here.
Yeah, not Pitt for sure.
So I'm an alumnus, so what are you going to do? You're not going to say, and I have a lot of people ask me, it's just, why aren't you a Penn State fan? And I just look at them and say, because I was smart.
Right.
They never liked that answer. Look at this.
Hey, are you bird watching
Look
right
at this.
now?
I'm not looking at any birds right now. Hey, speaking of birds, I was just going to bring this up real quick.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, I was treated. Went out my front porch and it was late. It was like 12:30, and it is dead quiet out there.
The hummingbird.
And that's when
That
the
mockingbird?
mockingbird that was out there. And I just sat on my front porch and sat and listened to this thing, and it went through
It goes through also many.
through so many songs from different birds, and I actually recorded it. I was, I enjoyed
My
it.
wife heard that too.
It was
Yeah.
driving us nuts.
She goes, "Did you hear it?" I'm like, "Nope, I was out."
Nope.
Yeah, I asked
They're
Kevin.
pretty crazy.
I asked Kevin about it. He had a different opinion of the bird.
Was it a moo-duck?
It was a Moo-Duck bird.
I wasn't close enough to see if it was one
it-
of the Moo-Duck.
Did it imitate a
Moo-Duck
Moo-Duck?
mockingbirds.
Let's set the scenery. So, my wife, middle-aged, of course, still cold out at the time. The window is open. Birds. Turn on the fan.
I didn't hear
with the
that
window
song.
Open, and I'm freezing to death. And I'm like, man, give me that shotgun. Where's it?
Right.
Where's the bird?
Where's the
at?
shotgun?
Oh boy.
So you're the bird expert.
Oh, I'm not an expert anymore.
You're not
At
an
one
expert
point,
anymore.
maybe,
But so these mockingbirds, they mimic other birds.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
what's the reason behind it?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Safety fence, I think.
Well, we thought you'd fucking know.
No, I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that. I mean,
I've watched a
I
couple
don't
things
know.
about like ravens and crows. They're like the jokesters.
yeah, and
And
they're
they will-
actually smart.
They're
really
smart enough. They'll
Yeah.
mimic and try and
Oh, yeah.
just joke around with
Yeah.
other birds.
Yep.
Yep.
I don't
So
think
is
mockingbirds
that like the
smart, though.
Baltimore Ravens are jokesters?
I would say that.
As a Pittsburgh fan, you should, right?
Yeah, I can ask my wife. I think she did mention something about why the mockingbirds do that, but I forgot it already.
We've been getting these little bluebirds. I don't know, little bitty things.
Oh,
Pretty neat.
I don't know. I brought the camper home. Like I said, they found their way right in there the next day, and they already shit on the window. So
It wasn't a half an hour. You pulled in. It was so funny because I walked in, came back out. They're flying
There
in
they
there.
yeah. Yeah, they're running around. Camper's home.
I was hoping I'd avoid them this year. Hey, so anything that you do inside the tap room, like events, music, anything special that you want?
Yeah, so there's a couple things that are really kind of cool. Every first Saturday. So another one of my hobbies. In fact, before I opened a brewery, I actually contemplated opening a barbecue restaurant up because I do love smoking meats. I wasn't gonna. There was thought at one point where maybe we become like kind of a barbecue joint and a brewery, and I was like, I'm only one person. Like, that's not going to happen.
And so that's
just
why
not
you
gonna
and
happen.
Mark from Dover Brewing have hit off because he loves to smoke stuff on his smoker.
So every first Saturday, we have some kind of smoked special, and that varies. We do just a little bit of everything. So that's one of the things people really look forward to is the smoking first Saturdays. We do actually, now that I think about it, I kind of did bite the bullet. We do have a brisket sandwich and a smoked chicken sandwich on the menu at all times. So there are some smoked meats on all the time, but every first Saturday there's like a special smoked product of mass quantities of stuff that you can get. And then every Saturday we have live music. And one of the things I like about our live music is it starts early and ends early. So, sometimes, I don't want to go out where, you go to a music place and the band goes on at 10 o'clock or whatever. Like, I don't want that. Like, that's not who I am. So our music
you want
starts
to get home.
Yeah, I want to be home by then. So our music starts at 5:30. It's over by 8:30. So that's really nice. And I think the thing that I think all musicians have always commented about us is it goes back to the whole no TVs thing. Like, people are very, a lot of times if you're a musician and you're just a guy playing guitar, you're probably going to almost feel like your background music somewhere, right?
Yeah. People
Like
are
everything's
sitting there
happening and I'm
talking
just here in the corner playing some music and maybe they're listening, maybe they're not.
Hopefully they get some tips.
Right. Where ours, in between songs, people actually clap and they're actually paying attention to what's going on. And I think that just goes back to our whole no TVs and people are really focused on what's happening around them at that time. So 5:30, 8:30 every Saturday we have live music. And some of the bands draw like crazy, and there could be dance floors happening and stuff like that. But that's pretty rare. Usually it's pretty much acoustic, a guy with a guitar, and
I think
chill. But
we've mentioned this, I don't know how many times, but back in the day it was the bar. You went to a bar, right?
Right.
And now it's stuff like this. It's no TVs, just conversation. Quality atmosphere.
Yeah.
I think I love it. Unfortunately, we don't get to go out all the time. I wish we had more time to do it.
That's how Cindy and I. What was it? Friday night. I wanted to go out for dinner. I was in the mood for jazz. Get on Facebook. Get on the local Google, and boom. Anything from jazz to hip hop to the blues.
Yeah, it's always out there.
And that pushed me for my dinner.
Was any Parliament on that?
Yeah, I think one of the directions I would say the brewing industry is headed in is, I think you're seeing the end of kind of the mom and dad bar.
Yeah.
And I think breweries and their tap rooms are kind of becoming the mom and dad bars of their community.
They're more family friendly.
Yep.
Yeah, bring your kids, bring your whatever. Yep. Anything you do, like any special events coming up, like this is going to be July 4th weekend. Anything you got planned? Any big events?
Any holiday weekend, we do a special event happening of some kind. This will air after this event, unfortunately, but Memorial Day weekend, we have our summer ale release party.
I saw that.
Where people wear their Hawaiian shirts, and we actually just had Moo-Duck Hawaiian shirts made, which are really kind of crazy looking, but people are really digging them and buying them. And then with the Memorial thing, we'll have a kind of a cookout vibe going, which is, fits the weekend. 4th of July, we'll have a shrimp boil. So we'll do a shrimp boil where it's, you get a big plate of the boil. And for that, we do, we call it our Sand in Inconvenient Places beer. So it's a light beer with salt and lime.
So almost like a cerveza a little bit.
Yeah. So just real light, easy summer crusher. I think that comes in at like 3.5%. So just real low ABV. Just
so you can
drink it all day. Drink a bunch of it. It's refreshing.
Well, I couldn't drink it all day.
Perfect.
I'd still be freaking inebriated, but it's a sessionable.
Yeah, it's a sessionable all day kind of light beer. And then if we head towards the end of the summer, we go back to the smoked meat thing. Labor Day weekend, we have a smoked porter that coincides with cooking a whole hog. So.
Oh, so you got a pig roast going on.
Yeah, so pig roast for Labor Day weekend.
Oh, man.
So those are kind of the big things we hit for the summer holidays.
That's awesome.
Pretty good. That sounds really good.
Guys, any last comments?
Just real quick, I bring it up every once in a while. Did you do anything with the local baseball out there as Barnstormers?
Yeah, we were in their I think they call it the Broken Bat beer deck, I think they call it. We were doing it for a couple of summers, and we've since backed out of that. Not for any reason that we didn't have a good time. Now that we didn't sell beer out there, we sold a lot of beer. It was probably worth it. They treated you really nice if you had the beer on tap. They gave you a suite for a night, or they invite your staff out to enjoy the ball game for a night. So they did treat you really well. It just, we kind of pulled back for what we talked about earlier. Like, our core thing is our tap room. And that's what we continue to want to really, really focus on. So we did that for 2 or 3 summers, and we unfortunately decided, let's pull back and just
focus on what you guys got going.
Again, we don't have salespeople. We don't have a sales team. If we're selling beer to the Broken Bat beer deck at the Lancaster Barnstormers, guess who's delivering it?
It's you, not your wife.
It's me.
It's you.
It's me. So again, it goes back to, I'm brewing full time. And I am a one-man brew team. I don't know how many people you will ever hear say that. So I'm the only person in the brewery.
You're not training the next generation?
Something is happening in the brewery, that means I am doing it.
Okay.
So all the keg washing, all the keg filling, all the brewing, all the cleaning tanks, anything to do back there, which is a lot of work, is done by me.
Can we advertise maybe you're looking for an assistant brewer?
Not yet. It's getting to the point where we're going to have to at some point. But,
yeah.
Train the next generation.
I told somebody that, I'm realistic in knowing that, number one, I'm not young anymore. I'm not old either, but it's a pretty
Dave's young.
Labor intensive. It's a pretty labor intensive job.
It is.
And I'm not going to be able to do it forever, and I'm realistic about that. We're also continuing to grow.
Yeah.
realistically, at some point, I'm not a fool and thinking I can do it all myself. But
Sure.
but
We've all made that mistake.
I am
but
young.
from being the one man brewing team to wanting to keep a presence in the tap room to helping cook when the kitchen gets busy in the tap room to I don't really want to be delivering kegs now.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't blame you. Kevin, any last things?
No, just thank you for coming and
yeah.
sharing.
It's been fun.
Wealth. And best of luck with everything.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Mike, tell us one last time where they can find you, your hours, stuff like that. I mean, you're on social media.
Yeah,
and
so
stuff
all
like
the
that?
socials is really easy. It's just going to be at Moo-Duck Brewery no matter what it is. So there's no shortened anything. There's no MD Brewery or anything like that. It's everything you can find us. Just go to at Moo-Duck Brewery and you're going to find us, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, whatever it's going to be. www.moodduckbrewery.com. Everything is really easy to find us. And the only thing you get confused about if you do Moo-Duck, you might find some Russian slang or you might find some karate, jiu-jitsu type thing. But otherwise, you're going to find us if you type in Moo-Duck.
All balls, no brains, right?
That's right.
Oh, Mike, I appreciate you coming down here and sharing us with sharing your story. We've had a great time.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
The 4th of July. We have one more beer sitting here. This has been fun to find out your story about where Moo-Duck is or what a Moo-Duck is. That came from a bird watching thing. This is what we love about doing this. The stories are just awesome.
Yeah.
And just like our story, it's unique. We're 3 neighbors that enjoyed beer.
Right.
And we kind of started doing this, but I think it's awesome that what we're doing.
Yeah, it's fun.
So tell us a little bit about our last beer.
Last beer is called Mistopheles. Some people might recognize that if you're a Broadway fan from Cats.
Okay, I was.
I will say that is not where I know it from. I've never seen Cats, but Mistopheles for me was the name of our little black cat. So the cat in the show is a black cat. So my wife and I, our original pet that we had together when we were still dating was a little black cat named Mistopheles.
And where did you come up with the name Mistopheles for your cat rather than the Broadway?
Well, that was my
show?
wife. My wife knows the Broadway play. She's from New York.
Oh, okay, so
She
came
knew
from
of the Broadway play. I did not, and she came up with the name Mistopheles. And I was
going to ask if it was a Greek god or something.
Right. So our year-round stout that we always have on tap is an ode to our first little black cat, and she was full grown as an adult and was about 4 pounds. She's the tiniest little thing, but let me tell you, no 80-pound dog would ever come near her because she was the fiercest little thing in the world. But once you got to know her, she was a really sweet little cat, and that's what we say. This little beer looks dark and intimidating, but once you get to know it, it's a pretty nice beer. We've done so many different things. I said it's year round. Sometimes it's like a 4% dry Irish stout like a Guinness. Sometimes it's an imperial stout up in the 8% range. Sometimes it has coffee. Sometimes it has this, that. We've kind of settled in this. Our original Mistopheles was this one, which is somewhere around 7% chocolate stout.
I'm getting that chocolate nib
Yeah.
out. That chocolate note is right at the front of
this
the nose.
one is aged on cocoa nibs.
Is this the one that you're barrel aging?
No, so that one's
Okay.
bigger and badder than this one.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Bigger and badder.
Yeah.
Bigger and badder.
I'm smelling this now, and it smells really good.
It does smell good. Mike, again, thank you for coming down here and sitting with us at the Central PA Pour.
Been fun. Thank you, guys.
If you're out there, no matter what you got in it, this is nice to have in our glasses. Let's all raise one with Mike from Moo-Duck Brewery and the CPP.
Thanks, guys.
And let's all be bonded by beer. Cheers.